Find origins. The WHO give one last push towards the search for the pandemic answers. Bubble gun. The latest pain-free way to get jabbed now in the form of a light. Energy emergency. The EU on the verge of economic ruin as the world runs out of sustenance. Space voyage. Captain Kirk sees science fiction turned into reality as the oldest person to reach the stars.
From the global resources of the Derana Media Network, this is Ada Derana World News Tonight. Now reporting from Studio 24 in Colombo, here's Suzanne Shenali.
A very good evening and thank you for joining us on World News Tonight. We start off today's coverage with the search for answers of the pandemic. The World Health Organization said its newly formed advisory group on dangerous pathogens may be the last chance to determine the origins of the SARS-CoV-2 virus and urged China to provide data on the early cases.
Right now, this is our best chance, and it may be our last chance to understand the origins of this virus.
The World Health Organization announced the creation of a newly formed group Wednesday that it called its last chance to determine the origins of COVID-19 and urged China to cooperate. The question of where and how the coronavirus came to be has become a highly volatile issue and a particularly touchy topic for China, where the first cases emerged in late 2019. Mike Ryan, WHO's head of emergencies program, urged calm amid a renewed bid for answers.
That is a human endeavor to understand a virus that has stopped our whole world. And I would ask everyone, countries, journalists, and everybody else, to create a little space for that discussion to happen.
A WHO-led team spent 4 weeks in and around Wuhan, China earlier this year with Chinese scientists probing the earliest known cases of the coronavirus, and said in a joint report in March that the virus had probably been transmitted from bats to humans through another animal, but further research was needed. WHO Director Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said that the investigation was hampered by a lack of raw data and has called for lab audits. China has repeatedly dismissed theories that the virus leaked from one of its laboratories and has said no more visits are needed. But the WHO believes otherwise.
And we very much hope that there will be further missions to China and other countries.
In an editorial in the journal Science, the WHO said that detailed investigations of the earliest known and suspected cases in China prior to December of 2019 were still needed, including analyses of stored blood samples from 2019 in Wuhan. Chen Xu, China's ambassador to the UN, noted that international teams had been sent to China twice already, and that, quote, it is time to send teams to other places.
The United States will lift restrictions at its land borders with Canada and Mexico for the fully vaccinated foreign nationals in early November, ending historic curbs on non-essential travelers in place since March 2020 to address the COVID-19 pandemic. For more on this, we have Ada Derana World News special correspondent Nicola Senaratne reporting from New York in the United States. Nicola?
Yes, Shenali. U.S. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement that the administration next month will begin travelers from Mexico and Canada who are fully vaccinated for COVID-19 to enter the United States for non-essential purposes, including to visit friends and family or for tourism, by land and ferry border crossings. Lawmakers from U.S. border states praised the move to lift the unprecedented restrictions which harm the economies of local communities and has prevented visits to visit friends and families for 19 months. Unvaccinated visitors will still be barred from entering the United States from Canada or Mexico at land borders. The officials from President Joe Biden's administration emphasized that the White House would not lift the 42nd order put in place by former President Donald Trump's administration that has essentially cut off across to asylum for hundreds of thousands of migrants seeking to enter from Mexico. In early January, the United States will require essential visitors like truck drivers or healthcare workers to be vaccinated to cross land borders, the officials said. Back to you, Shenali.
All right, thank you. That was Ada Derana World News special correspondent Nicola Senaratne reporting from New York in the United States. The Sputnik vaccine's one-jab relative Sputnik Light has released new test results showing a jab efficacy of up to 70%. However, research is still underway for a peer-reviewed result.
Russia's one-shot COVID vaccine Sputnik Light shows 70% effectiveness against the Delta variant of coronavirus 3 months after injection. That's according to the Russian Direct Investment Fund, citing the vaccine's developer. The data was submitted by the developer ahead of a peer review. The data comes as Russia battles soaring infections and hesitancy about vaccines at home, while struggling to compete with more established vaccines from Pfizer, Moderna and AstraZeneca. Countries around the world are deploying or considering administering third doses of Pfizer or Moderna vaccines or booster shots to some of their population, particularly those with weakened immune systems and the elderly. But there's no consensus among scientists about how broadly they should be used. RDIF said Sputnik Light as a booster for other vaccines will be almost as effective against the Delta variant as Russia's flagship two-shot Sputnik V vaccine. The Sputnik V vaccine, widely used in Russia and approved for use in more than 70 countries, is undergoing a review by the World Health Organization and the European Medicines Agency.
We have some good news for you. With the bubble gun, researchers in the Netherlands are hoping virtual painless, needle-free vaccinations could be a reality. It uses laser technology to penetrate the skin.
Researchers in the Netherlands are developing virtually painless injections without needles, in what they hope is a breakthrough that will ease fear and encourage vaccinations. The bubble gun uses a laser to push tiny droplets through the outer layer of the skin. David Fernandes Rivas of Twente University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology developed the method. The process is quicker than a mosquito bite and should not cause pain, because nerve endings in the skin are not touched, he said, though this will be studied further.
We do that by accelerating small droplets of liquid that penetrate in the superficial layer of the skin, and this has many advantages. The first one is removing the fear. Additionally, we contaminate a lot by the needles that are used, and our immune system works very well when you inject into these superficial layers of the skin.
Henk Schenk offers therapy to those suffering acutely from trypanophobia, or fear of needles. It's more common than you might think, he says. Roughly 1 in 5 Dutch people suffer, and COVID has brought the phobia to the fore. The bubble gun could take 1 to 3 years to become available to the general public, depending on the process of research and regulatory issues. An application for funding to begin human testing with volunteers is expected to be submitted this month, Rivas said. A new startup company will collaborate with the pharmaceutical industry, he said, to test and market the bubble gun.
Let's go into a short commercial break. We'll be back soon with more world news. Welcome back. The European Commission unveiled a list of proposed measures that the EU countries can take to mitigate soaring energy prices for consumers and industries. The aim is to ease costs as Europe's winter approaches amid a global energy crunch caused by economies kicking back into high gear after a long lull forced by the coronavirus pandemic.
Faced with soaring gas and electricity prices, Brussels wants to act swiftly. Its main strategy to rein in the hike, encouraging member states to lower VAT and other taxes on energy. The European Commission has backed a plan for direct handouts to households. An energy cashback scheme is to be set up, but it will only be available for those families that are most in need. The situation across Europe is serious. 36 million households have been hit by the skyrocketing prices. The EU's Statistics Office says energy prices rose 17.4% in the month of September alone. And winter has not yet begun. Longer term, the European Commission also wants to head off future supply problems and is considering setting up strategic gas stockpiles. The details are expected to be unveiled mid-December. The burning issue of rising energy prices will be at the top of the agenda at the next summit of European heads of state and government, scheduled for late next week.
Meanwhile, in Russia, President Vladimir Putin is denying any power moves in relation to the energy crisis, stating that the country is already providing its maximum output in accordance with the contracts with the EU.
Russia is ready to provide more gas to Europe to help ease an energy price crunch, so said Russian President Vladimir Putin in a speech Wednesday. He also rejected any suggestion that Moscow was squeezing supplies for political motives.
And you are talking about accusations against Russia that it uses energy sources as a weapon. That is complete nonsense and rubbish, politically motivated, non-justified blather.
European gas prices have hit record levels this month. Energy demand has surged as economies rebound from the health crisis. That has driven up prices of oil, gas and coal. The Kremlin has denied Russia is deliberately holding back supplies to exert pressure for quick regulatory approval of the new gas pipeline Nord Stream 2. It has been built across the Baltic Sea to Germany, but is still waiting for approval to start pumping. The US and some European nations are opposed to the project, as they fear Europe will become overly reliant on Russia. Putin's spokesman earlier said Russian gas giant Gazprom was supplying gas to Europe at maximum levels under existing contracts. He further said any increase would need to be negotiated with the company.
Facebook is updating rules on attacking public figures on its platforms and will increase protections against harassment and bullying targeted at activists and journalists.
Public figures will now get more protection from Facebook on its platforms. In an update to its bullying and harassment policies, the social media giant announced Wednesday it will now remove severe sexualizing content targeting public figures on Facebook and Instagram. Politicians, celebrities, and now those who, quote, have become famous involuntarily or because of their work, such as activists and journalists, will be among those protected. The content listed by the company includes profiles, pages, groups, or events dedicated to sexualizing the public figure, as well as derogatory, sexualized photoshopped images, drawings, and more. Facebook's global head of safety, Antigone Davis, said it was part of an effort to reduce attacks disproportionately faced by women, people of color, and the LGBTQ community. Additionally, as part of the anti-harassment policy update, Facebook will now also remove coordinated efforts of mass harassment that target individuals at heightened risk of offline harm, like victims of violent tragedies or government dissidents. This news comes as the social media giant faces wide-ranging scrutiny from global lawmakers and regulators over its content moderation practices and harms linked to its platforms, with internal documents leaked by a whistleblower forming the basis of a U.S. Senate hearing last week.
France has begun to withdraw troops from its northernmost Malian bases, part of plans to reorganize its forces deployed into Restart Sahel region under Operation Barkhane.
In the heart of the Malian Gouma, the Gossi camp, it is one of the bases housing the Barkhane force, which the French authorities have decided to keep. The ones in Kidal Tissalit and Timbuktu in the north of the country will be closed by the end of the year and are being handed over to the Malian army. While air support will be maintained, the 5,100 French troops in the Sahel will be reduced. European special forces deployed in the Tagout task force will be in charge of supporting the Malian military. However, 8 years of war against the jihadists have not enabled the authorities to take back a territory that is 2/3 out of their control. And for Amidou Cissé of the Patriots of Mali group, the time has come to turn the page on the French intervention. While Bamako is looking for new partners and eyeing the potential Russian paramilitary Wagner group, the ex-rebels of the north insist that the answers to this multidimensional crisis must above all be Malian. A reconstituted army that has struggled to become a reality since the signing of the Algiers peace agreement in 2015.
A man armed with a bow and arrow killed 5 people and wounded 2 others in a series of attacks in a Norwegian town in Kongsberg. For more on this, we have Other Than a World News special correspondent Danushka Maravansa reporting from Tromsø in Norway. Danushka.
Yes, Shanali. According to the local police chief, Oyvind Oss, 5 persons have been killed and 2 have been injured. One of the injured is an off-duty police officer who was at the store where the incident happened. He and the other injured person have been hospitalized. Oss said a male suspect has been apprehended and that it is too early to know the intentions behind the attack. Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg said that the police are investigating whether it was an act of terror. Following the attacks, the police directorate said it has ordered officers nationwide to carry firearms as a precautionary measure, whilst adding that there is no change to the national threat level. The Norwegian police are generally unarmed, but the officers have access to carry firearms when required. This attack was the worst in Norway since 2011, when a far-right extremist killed 77 persons, mostly teenagers, at a youth camp. Back to you, Shanali.
All right, thank you. That was Ada Derana World News special correspondent Danush Kamaravansa reporting from Tromsø in Norway. Let's go into a short commercial break. More news on the other side. Welcome back, and for more news, let's take you around the world in a minute. President Joe Biden urged the private sector to help ease supply chain blockages and that are threatening to disrupt the U.S. holiday season, and said the White House plans a nationwide overhaul of the clogged system. Competition from Tesla is pushing Volkswagen to think about speeding up its transition to electric vehicles. Many people who have been vaccinated are reaching the time when they might need booster shots to up their immunity. A U.S. study has found that people who originally received the single dose of Johnson & Johnson's Janssen vaccine produced the strongest antibody levels after receiving a Moderna booster shot. COVID-19 infections in Australia's Victoria hit a pandemic record as Melbourne, the state capital, looks to exit its lockdown next week, several days ahead of plan, helped by a faster-than-expected vaccine uptake. Southern Korean Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki said he will make measures to stabilize the local foreign exchange market if deemed necessary. He also vowed to make sure that the country's inflation stays at around 2% by the end of this year. The EU, aiming to become carbon neutral by 2050, drew record demand for its first ever green bond. The 15-year bond will finance environmentally beneficial projects for EU member states. Special reports revealed evidence that back accusations that Amazon.com has repeatedly been knocking off the products of sellers and rigging search results.
Amazon.com has repeatedly been accused of knocking off the products of sellers in its marketplace and rigging search results, an exploitation of its vast trove of data to promote its own merchandise at the expense of other sellers. The company has denied the accusations, but thousands of internal Amazon documents, including emails, strategy papers, and business plans, show the company ran a systematic campaign of creating knockoffs and manipulating search results to boost its own line of products in India, one of the company's largest growth markets. The documents reveal how Amazon's private brands team in India secretly exploited internal data to copy products sold by other companies, then offered them on its platform. The employees also stoked sales of Amazon private brand products by rigging Amazon's search results so that the company's products would appear ahead of others. The global retail giant responded to the accusations, stating, "We believe these claims are factually incorrect and unsubstantiated." The findings in the documents could intensify the legal and regulatory pressure the company is facing in many countries. Amazon is under investigation in the United States, Europe, and India for alleged anti-competitive practices that hurt other businesses.
And finally tonight, Hollywood's Captain Kirk, 90-year-old William Shatner, blasted into space in a convergence of science fiction and science reality, reaching the final frontier aboard a ship built by Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin company.
He made a career out of playing a space explorer. Now William Shatner can add real-life astronaut to his list of credits. The 90-year-old actor, best known for playing Captain James T. Kirk of Star Trek fame, had his own space adventure on Wednesday. Shatner said the experience was unbelievable. Shatner, along with 3 other crew members, blasted off from Van Horn, Texas, in a Blue Origin's rocket. They hurtled an estimated 106 kilometers above the West Texas desert, experienced a few minutes of weightlessness, before their capsule safely parachuted back to Earth. A trip that lasted about 10 minutes in total. It's the second manned flight operated by Blue Origin, the company owned by Amazon founder and billionaire Jeff Bezos. Shatner's journey now makes him the oldest person to go into space, a title previously held by 82-year-old Wally Funk, who also traveled on a Blue Origin rocket.
And that's all the news we have for you tonight. Anuradhi will be back tomorrow with another edition of World News. I'm Suzanne Shenali. Until then, stay safe and have a good night.